Welcome to the last day, day 4 of the Mastercard Sustainability Week 2022. My name is Andrea. I lead Mastercard Foundry, ESG and Gaming for Eastern Europe and Middle East and Africa, and I'm your host today. We started our journey on Monday by taking a broader view into sustainable innovation. On Tuesday, we had absolutely incredible session with on magic of carbon calculator with Eco UK and Economy from Sweden. And I have to admit, I was really fascinating by the eco proposition where every 5 steps, eco card, a bottle is taken out of the ocean, and how you can subscribe for planting trees. So I don't know how you feel about it, but I have to say that I would personally switch banks if somebody would offer that to me. So it was really, really great. Yesterday, we explored what is the role of space in driving sustainability and how space technology and applications and research can be utilized to drive sustainable metrics to make our Earth a safer place. And I mean, the discussion just blew my mind. So today, we are back to planet Earth, and we will deep dive into a very critical and powerful topic of financial inclusion. Together, we will be traveling to Uganda and to Kenya to see how community pass is empowering and changing life of local farming communities, ultimately really to show how the right technology enables and builds stronger future for the farmers and for their families as well. So, I just want to set the stage a little bit in terms of, what does it actually mean being financially included. So in September 2022, the World Economic Forum published that in the world, there is still about 1.4 billion adults who don't have access to banking. That means it's harder for them to save, it's harder for them to borrow, send money, or start businesses. For all those, we obviously have some targets. So we at Mastercard, we pledged to bring a total of 1 billion people and 50 million micro and small businesses into digital economy by 2025. And we are not stopping there. We obviously want 25 million women entrepreneurs with solutions that we can help with to grow their businesses. And today we will speak about one of the solutions, how we're trying to do it. So without further ado, let me introduce my panelists. I am really delighted to welcome Gerald Begumisa. Gerald, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Gerald is founder and managing director of Yo Uganda, which, by the way, is a super cool name, I have to say. He operates as a mobile payment gateway, and it's called Yo Payments. The payments launched about 2010, and it was one of its kind in Uganda. The gateway really actively is being used not only by financial institutions of the big guys who cannot serve out and beyond their physical branches, but also by thousands of merchants to accept mobile payments from millions of customers, and lastly, also international money remittance for the last mile delivery of funds. So while you read some other interviews with Gerald, you will find him saying that, the winning formula is really listening to their customers and serving big range of them, from pharmacies to massive organizations. So really wonderful having you with us, Gerald. Super delighted. My second guest here, and obviously my second guest and panelist is Esther Kariuki. Hi, Esther. Esther is a head of culture business at the Cooperative Bank in Kenya. She truly focuses on driving food and agriculture strategy, right? Esther looks after innovation in technology, products, partnerships, and all the different business models. And she really tries to create and interconnect this ecosystem in the entire agricultural value chain and to build a resilient food system in Kenya. She also serves as a board of director at the Kenya Planter Cooperative Union, which is appointed by the Cabinet Secretary of Agriculture. What I found super interesting about Esther is that Esther, together with her daughters, she is actually a devoted coffee farmer herself. So I can't wait to hear the details as well in our discussion. So welcome, Esther. Great to have you here. And my last guest, of course not least, is my dear colleague, Daniel Huba. Daniel heads a community pass in Sub-Saharan Africa under the Mastercard Humanitarian and Development Division. The Mastercard Humanitarian and Development Division is a social enterprise within Mastercard and really focuses on driving human impact and commercial results. Daniel and his team innovates also in technology and partnerships and different business models, and ultimately serves to marginalize to serve the marginalized communities and those living in remote, disconnected environments in the world. He focuses on digital infrastructure that connects individual to critical services. So just to name a couple: healthcare, education, humanitarian aid, agriculture marketplaces, or micro-commerce. So Daniel, thank you so much for being with us. And let me just jump immediately into the discussion. Great to have you guys. So let's start with Gerald. Gerald, who is Yo and Yo Payments, and how did you get onto the journey of financial inclusion?
Thank you very much for that great introduction, Andrea. Great to be here. Yo Uganda is, you've done a very great introduction of who we are. I'll just add a bit to that. We are a licensed and regulated payment system operator based in Uganda. We started in 2006, so we've been in the market for just under 17 years now. Our mission has always been to accelerate the adoption of technology, particularly digital payments, into the day-to-day lives of individuals, businesses, and organizations. The approach we have taken has been more of what you could call a top-down approach or business-to-business approach, where we deploy solutions for organizations who deal with millions of people, which has the effect of accelerating the use of technology and its adoption, trickling down to the masses. For example, we offer services to banks, merchants, as Andrea said, lenders, credit institutions, and so on. In terms of financial inclusion, since 2017, we've been working with Mastercard on the deployment of our product, which is called YoPay Agric. Now, YoPay Agric actually sits on top of Community Pass, which is Mastercard's technology. And the unique approach which this product takes, powered by Community Pass, is to actually create an ecosystem to accelerate the adoption of digital technology, including payments, by various players in the agricultural sector. Of course, the most important of whom are the farmers. This is unique because in our earlier initiatives in deploying digital payment solutions in the agriculture sector, we found that actually it is not as simple as going to the farmer or going to a produce organization and trying to sell them the benefits of adopting digital payments, but rather the approach to create an ecosystem that brings all these players together and solve some of the key issues that they face would be the most successful method. And the adoption of digital payments would actually be a natural side effect of that solution.
I really like what you're saying, and we will go much deeper, obviously, into the solution and some of the stories with the customers. I think that it truly resonates with that we shouldn't sell technology, right? It's the solving for the pain points and adding value to the farmers in this case. Esther, let me come to you. What is the role? What is the role which Cooperative Bank Kenya plays in the field of financial inclusion, and how did you become passionate about it?
Can you hear me, Andrea?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, so I work at Cooperative Bank. Cooperative Bank is a bank that was started in the 1968 by small-scale farmers. We just come from independence in 1963. So obviously farmers could not get financial services, and small-scale farmers were not candidate for any kind of financial, any form of credit. So they decided to form their own bank, which is quite powerful. And since 1963 to date, the Cooperative Bank focuses on literally developing products that will continue to serve the smallholder farmers in the country. And I think that's what excites me, because I think many commercial institutions and commercial banks do not have appetite for small-scale farmers.
Right.
But we sit as a bank started by the small-scale farmers, so we don't have the luxury of saying we don't have appetite, it's risky. So it's us as a bank to be very innovative in how we develop the products for them, how we understand their business, how we de-risk ourselves, and how we develop partnerships that will continue to, make the business of serving small-scale farmers inclusive. So we have about, in Kenya, we have about 7,000 registered agricultural cooperatives. We serve about 5,000 with an average member base of 500 per cooperative. Some can be as big as 100,000. And so that is really our focus. And that's the work I do here at Coop Bank, which is very exciting because I'm a small-scale farmer myself as well.
Amazing. You can almost like prototype all the products on yourself before you bring it into production
Exactly.
in the bank, right? So very, very good. I really love it. I love it. Daniel, I wanted to come a little bit to you, and you already mentioned the Mastercard Humanitarian Development Division. Can you maybe elaborate on two things? What are some of the programs we're running, and then maybe deep dive onto the Community Pass platform, because that's what our conversation will be focusing on today. And I just want to give the audience the opportunity to understand what is it about.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andrea. And really, I'm very, very proud and glad that Gerald and Esther, my friends, are here with me today as we talk about really financial inclusion. So Mastercard really, as you indicated earlier, Andrea, is very committed to the inclusion space. We gave the number 1 billion people we want to include in the next couple of years, and we have a couple of programs that, as a Mastercard whole, are driving this mission towards more inclusive society. So we have partnership with telcos, for example, to expand payment rails and power e-commerce through virtual cards. And we have rolled out programs with a couple of telcos in the market. We have partnership with fintechs through our StartPath program, for example, where we allow fintechs that are reaching people in the last mile to be able to consume our core capabilities in Mastercard, things like, for example, inclusive ID, and be able to then roll that at scale. We also have partnership with governments and to support government with e-government services digitization, so that services offered to people are able to be accessed without necessarily a big hurdle. And we have huge programs here rolling out government, even including social disbursement. But core to our discussion today is really Community Pass. That as part of the mission of what we want to drive is how do we serve individuals that are digitally and financially excluded. And a majority of people, especially in Africa and Asia, fall in that bucket because of really the communities and where we are today. And so Community Pass really is both a platform, but also a strategy, and a very deliberate strategy in Mastercard, where we say we believe we are stronger when we are all. We believe that we can be able to, bring more people into the financial and digital ecosystem so that they can be able to enjoy services. So we look at digitization beyond payment. So Community Pass really is coming together with a way in which we can digitize what we call life transactions. So we give tools to businesses and individuals so that they can be able to power their day-to-day lives, whether it is how they get registered or identified into programs, to how, for example, they keep their records, whether it's in the healthcare or in agriculture, to how they get paid, whether it is an online environment or offline environment. So that is the power of digitization for which Community Pass is doing. So really serving the people who are marginalized, those that are in the rural communities, and those that are in remote areas that today are not being served by either the GSM connectivity or even data connectivity. So that's really what Community Pass is all about.
One of the aspects which I really like about the solution myself is that whole offline aspect, right? Because we take the connectivity for granted in many countries in the world, and it's not granted, right? It's the same way like water, electricity, and connectivity. And I think that's one of the big powers. I want to jump to Gerald. Gerald, Daniel gave us this like a 10,000 feet overview, right? He told us what the technology can do. Make it personal for us. So how does Yo Uganda utilize the the Community Pass and enables farmers? And what are some of the experiences which you enable them to do, if you can bring it alive?
Great, thank you, Andrea, and thank you very much, Huba, for that great overview. So YoPay Agric, which is powered by Community Pass, helps farmers solve their key pressing challenges. And like I mentioned at the start, our discovery based on our earlier experiences had been that it's not just about helping someone digitize a payment, but there are deeper challenges that are faced, which would then accelerate the adoption of digital payments if those challenges were solved. And some of the key things that Community Pass solves is to link farmers to the various players in the agriculture sector and essentially bring everyone together under one umbrella kind of ecosystem. So this includes the farmers themselves on one hand, then suppliers who sell quality seeds, and through the Community Pass platform, we are actually able to vet in partnership with the different standards institutions in the country to vet the suppliers and enable farmers have access to quality seed and fertilizer suppliers, as an example. Also bringing together financial institutions such as banks or savings and credit cooperative organizations, and also bringing buyers here. From just bringing all these people together, information is a key thing, which is a benefit that farmers would get from this platform. And that information includes not just where they can buy quality seeds, but also information on what is the best price at which they can sell their produce. One of the things which, go ahead.
No, I'm just curious, because you now already told us 3 experiences, and I'm just trying to bring it alive for the audience. So if I'm a farmer in Uganda and you say, I want to buy the seeds, so I assume I have a USSD application, and then I can, based on that, I can source and see which seeds are available and what quality they are. How, if I should visualize it, right? How does the journey of the farmer go? Gerald, you still there? I think connectivity.
Yes, connectivity. The exact reason of why we are talking about. Yeah, so maybe if I take that, and then
Gerald is back. Gerald, did you hear my question?
Yeah. Yes, I heard your question very well.
Perfect.
Can you hear me now?
I think we're doing it on purpose to show how connectivity doesn't always work, right? Amazing.
Yes. So if you can hear me now, I'll go ahead and answer the question. Yeah, so your agreed or powered by Community Pass does not necessarily need the farmers to have a smartphone. And one of the key features which Community Pass provides is the fact that it also incorporates an aspect of agents. And so these agents, having the Community Pass application on their phone, are also able to go down to the last mile and deliver these services to the farmers themselves. So the farmer may have access to a USSD application. Some sophisticated farmers may have access to smartphones, but those without access may also be served by agents who are running the Yo Pay Agric Community Pass application on their phones, and thus deliver all of these benefits to the farmers who they have reached to. So these agents are people who are part of the communities. A number of them are also farmers themselves. And so as they benefit from this system, they are also able to go down to the rest of their colleagues and also deliver the same benefits to them.
All right. I want to just jump over the border to Kenya, right? Esther, to you. How is different the application, how you use it, and how do you use the Community Pass platform in Kenya? I mean, we spoke about the quality of seeds and bringing the buyers and sellers together. Can you tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, so in the beauty about what we are doing with the Mastercard in Kenya is we are already serving our client base. As I've told you earlier, the bank was formed by the cooperative, so they are our core clients. We've been serving them since 1968. And so what we've done with the partnership with Mastercard is just lay technology on the existing operations that we've had with the co-ops. So our client is the cooperative. So we install the platform to them, and they in turn are the agent that register the farmers who they already actually have. So a lot of the data is already held by the cooperative, and it's just digitizing the records and the data that they have in many different forms, in manual forms or in just very simple applications. But then now bringing that onto the platform, which has been a big learning curve for us, because all cooperatives have data in all manner of forms. So I think for us, it has been relatively easier because we already have the cooperatives in the bank. They're already having live transactions with us, and just now digitizing their operations. I think going forward, maybe it's to be more sophisticated in how, depending on the level of where the cooperatives are. And I think it's to deploy the platform in phases and reach the cooperatives at the different levels where they are at. Yes.
So maybe I want to take you from a platform discussion to a farmer discussion, right?
Yes,
Stories always tell the best experiences, right? If you should, maybe stay with you, Esther, for a while. If you are a farmer yourself, right? So how does it impact your day to day? And without talking what's happening in the back end. So if you are a customer which is using it, what can you do? What are some of the things which you were not able to do before?
Yeah. So even basic, just like having your data on a platform in a digital format.
What data you're talking about? Maybe so to people who are not so familiar.
The farmer data. You have the farmer data written on a piece of paper in a manual file somewhere. And every time a farmer goes for service at their local cooperative, the clerks have to get the file, the big paper file, and peruse through to get the farmer data. And even when you deliver your produce, just having your records, the produce record registered manually, and you get a paper slip that you go with at home, and it can be spoiled or lost. So just having that on a digital platform where your information is digitally captured from your name to your record, and also how the cooperative is interacting with you, passing information in a very timely manner. But also more powerful is to have your information consistently making sense, like my last year's produce, this year's produce, and it's telling my story as a farmer, where if you're not in a digital platform, then your story is lost. You're just a name and the produce for that year, but your story of how you've grown as a farmer is just not told.
I like that you said. Gerald, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, so Esther has actually told it quite well and quite strongly. And digitization of records is a very big aspect. And we also faced the same thing as we went to the various farmer produce organizations. A number of them were doing things very, very manually, and they were recording things in books and papers and so on. And so one of the most basic benefits that actually the platform brings is actually now moving from that level of the manual record keeping into a digital form. And I think this is one of the things that we have to keep being aware about as we deal with the agricultural sector. There are certain surprises that you would find. For example, in one of our initiatives, we found that we actually had to source mobile phones, reasonable mobile phones, which we would then distribute to the farmers at a reasonable price to enable them have at least an entry point digital device that they may use. And if we are used to dealing with mainly urban areas, that would be something that might be considered as a given, but which is not the case in the case of the agriculture sector.
You know, I really love the model, and because I spent 9 years in Africa, and the countries which I managed was Zimbabwe, Zambia, Tanzania, Botswana, and Mozambique. And obviously in Zim, we spent a lot of time and did a couple of projects on the tobacco floors and with the cotton farmers. And obviously cotton is collected on cars, right? So they come to your farm, they collect it, and everything was done in paper. And how you describe it, it's such a wonderful digitalization of everything you do, right? It's the quality of a produce you came, your track record, as Esther was saying, the history, how you did it. I think it's absolutely brilliant. So Danielle, we spoke a little bit about this, tracking who you are and creating almost like your history, right? You don't need to rewrite it every year, like Esther was saying, every time you start all over again. What are some of the other experiences which the community pass can enable?
Yeah, and just to link the conversation before I go into that, Andrea,
please go.
One of the things that is very critical, and for me, which is a game changer here, and if you look at agriculture as a whole, is that what we are literally doing is returning back the power of data in the hand of the farmer. That today, this farmer is transacting. The only difference is that service providers are not aware of the farmer transacting. We keep making fun when I talk to Gerald and Esther around farmers are not poor, and we should remove that tag around, farmers are poor. Farmers are transacting, and it is us who think that farmers need help are the ones who believe that farmers are poor and are not able of transacting. Those who exactly work with farmers know that there are transactions within those farming communities. So what we are doing here really is really creating a movement that returns back the power of data into the hand of the farmer, and then amplifies what is possible when you deal with that farmer. And for us, the first instance in doing that in Community Pass is to issue a farmer credential. So all these things we are doing around digitization 101 is to ensure that there's a consistent identifier or credential for that farmer as a base. Then out of that credential that is acceptable across different providers, you can layer in services. You can layer in, for example, financial services, so that Esther at the bank now can consistently continue to lend to that farmer and to the business of that farmer, including the cooperatives and the other value chain actors, because there's a digital track record of who they are and what they are able to deal in, year out. The second thing is then to provide access to market, basically, that you have an opportunity for then off-takers to be able to know where goods are at farm gate. I give you an example in Kenya right now. We are going through a drought period in Kenya. So half of our counties today are in need of grain, while the other half of the county is actually harvesting, right? And you have off-takers looking for, where is the produce? Where can I get this produce? We have examples where you have part of the country that is complaining that there's no price there's no market for their produce, and farmers are saying, we need to get out of this business. The other part is saying, no, we actually look at that. What this platform does, and what our partnership with your and cooperative does, is now link those two worlds together, that you can be able to digitally order produce on the platform and get in touch with a farmer cooperative.
You really put a smile on my face, because yesterday the session we ran was about sustainability in space, right? And one of the areas which we said is, how can you use satellites to actually feed information to companies like Yo and a cooperative bank to then direct where the produce needs to go, who can buy and how. I think it's amazing how the ecosystem, beautifully can work together. Sorry, I interrupted.
Indeed. No worries. And for me, that's it. So you're providing financial services, you're providing access to market that is very much intelligence-based. So it's not just access to market, it's actually facilitating intelligence-based access to market. You then move into mechanization. And if we are going to feed the world, and if Africa will become the food basket that we are supposed to truly be, we must be able to go through mechanization. Mechanization will only work if we know who the farmer are, what they are producing, where are they selling their market, what is the production capacity of that farm over a period of time. So what we are doing here is laying that foundation to be able to have other services that are layered on. And then please remember, a farmer is not sitting in isolation. That same farmer is the one who is taking their children to school, and therefore is looking for income to be able to educate their children. That same farmer is the one who is taking going to receive health care. That same farmer is maybe participating in a government subsidy program. But because of the digitization journey that we are doing, we are once and for all breaking the barriers so that other service providers don't need to re-enroll the farmer. Other service providers don't need to re-enroll the agents, because that infrastructure is being built to allow healthcare service providers, to allow financial institutions, to allow education institutions to serve these individuals and businesses, because now there is a highway by which you can come in and drive and actually offer your services. And that's really what Community Pass is all about.
No, I think it's really fascinating, and I like how you, brought it a little bit wider, that you went into the healthcare and education. I wonder, maybe Esther, how, obviously, if I am your customer in Kenya, Esther is not moving. I think she's off. Oh, now it's off. Okay, Gerald, I'm a question to you. So if I am a farmer in Uganda, right? And you now collected all these data, and the data are sitting somewhere, and I would need to use it for example, getting a subsidy, or a stipendium for my kids, or include vaccination cards for my kids. What are some of the services which are already there today, and what are the ones which will be you are looking to include going forward to enrich and make it more relevant?
Thank you very much, Andrea. And so the key services that have been activated today, and I should say that right now about 800,000 farmers have been onboarded so far to the platform. So the key services that have been activated today have mainly been the linkage between the farmer, suppliers, and buyers. Now, the ones that are planned for the future include things like insurance providers, financial institutions, that is both the tier one lenders and even the smaller ones like the small savings institutions, suppliers of implements that farmers use, essentially anyone who the farmer deals with from the start to the end, having a way of plugging into this platform in order to, like Huba very well said, to avoid the duplication of efforts and going and doing the enrollment all over again. Because with this single platform or ecosystem where you have all this data flowing between the various players, it is possible now to be able to accurately determine the credit score, for example, of a farmer. And this is one of the issues which financial institutions would tend to face. If a farmer came to an institution for a loan, most times they will focus just on how big is your land, or maybe what assets do you have that we can use as security. But now, yes, the very traditional approach. But now with a platform like this, with all this data that is credible data, there would be a lot more points and decision points that would be used by such credit institutions.
I really like the point of data, and I think that it shouldn't be underestimated, right? You mentioned how it was done before and how a traditional bank would look on the size of your land and maybe your income, right? But now I know maybe how healthy you are because of your health data. I know what is your produce this year and last year and the year before. I know how many kids you have. I know what is the prices and what type of quality of seeds I think that there's an immense amount of data. And before I want to ask Daniel something, but I want to go back to Esther for a minute, because Esther, you got disconnected. So what I mean, no, I feel sorry that you struggle with the connectivity. But can you we obviously spoke about the power of data. Daniel brought alive what are all the other areas which we can do. How do you maximize it in Kenya? What is your roadmap with what you're doing today with that solution?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, so remember, we are a financial institution and our core business is lending and making credit decisions. And our credit decisioning is only as good as the data we have. So the more manual our data is, that tells you there's a lot of information that we are leaving on the table that could enrich our decision making. We are leaving a lot of nuances on that customer, and we are not having a full view of that farmer. So as a financial institution, data is everything. Data is power. So it helps us make better decisions as far as this farmer is concerned. It brings out aspects of that farmer that we couldn't have picked from just having the normal, looking at the financial statements, bank statements, the financial records and the financial transactions of a farmer. But when you digitize the operations from how the farmer produces the crop, the kind of inputs they use, the yields they got, and then you can start making comparisons between different inputs, different, there are farmers maybe who didn't order input, there are those who ordered from a different supplier. Then you're seeing the yields coming in. So you start to draw relationships and correlations and causations. And You know, when it goes to the pricing, you have more buyers on the platform. Remember, the biggest risk of a small scale farmer is not being able to have markets for their produce. And a bank only gets paid when the farmer has sold the produce to someone. So if the farmer doesn't have a view of the market, or the market doesn't have a view of the farmer, it's kind of gambling. And any financial institution then that lends to such kind of a farmer, you're also gambling with the farmer. But the platform enables us as a bank to support the farmer by not only supporting their production process, but also supporting their market access. And the farmer gets good prices, the farmer is happy, they make a return for their hard work, and the bank is paid by a happy farmer. And I think that's what really is exciting to us, that we are now able to have a bigger and broader view of this small scale farmer beyond just the transactions. Yeah.
I know I wanted to go back to Daniel, but I need to stay with Esther because, you know, I mean, you spark a question in my mind. I mean, to assess this kind of data for farmers to then be able to grow, right? It requires a slightly different scoring system and slightly different approach. And I mean, I'm not yet talking about AI. I'm just talking a simple scoring. How did you go around? Did you develop it in house and started to play and do some, you know, A/B testing with the data, see what decision will come out based on the produce and, you know, however they buy? Did you go outside to build a scoring model which allows you to take the data from the platform, analyze it, and make a decision?
So remember, for us, we already are lending, and that's the beauty of, we have already been, we started off with the client base that we have, and we said, let's use what we have before we can even go to farmers that we don't have in our portfolio. So let's continue let's run a parallel program, the normal process that we've been using vis-a-vis a little bit more data, and let us see, is really our assumptions and is the data enriching our portfolio, you know, our ability to collect better the health of our portfolio. And I think that's where we are at as a bank, having started off with Mastercard, and we are looking at even drawing the lessons that we are getting and being fully digital, letting go of the normal process that we've been using, and a journey of full digitizing our credit process as the data is coming in. So I think at the level where we are at, we are still semi-manual.
You know, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
I want to now, Daniel, it's your time. So, and Esther feed it really well. You know, I have almost like two questions. One is what are our plans as a Mastercard to enhance this solution with some more advanced AI-powered decision-making models, which would enable Gerald and Esther to obviously do it in a more automated manner, right? Maybe creating some copies, like digital twins of the data, and then, you know, helping them. That I think one part. And the second part, there was something in the chat, which I really like. I think Kennedy posted it to say, you know, all of this tracking obviously will enable going forward the provenance, right, and measure the carbon footprint of the producers, right? How are we looking at enhancing the solution so that if, you know, a farmer in Uganda is producing some coffee or tea, is able then to record as well where it comes from, and then if somebody buys it in Johannesburg or in Nairobi, they know what the carbon footprint of the provenance of the product is. Sorry, two questions, but it's so exciting. You know, there's so many teams here.
Yeah. So thank you again. So a couple of thoughts. One is that we are very alive from a Mastercard perspective and community pass, that the journey to digitization is not a one-man show, Sorry. And one of the things we are doing very clearly is to really make sure that we've built ourselves for scale by allowing for, you know, technology partners to also bring in their core capabilities onto the platform. So really building with an API first approach. And what I mean by that is that we are now saying beyond the basics, how do we then make it possible for, let's say, Esther at Cooperative Bank to be able to, you know, embed some of her own core capabilities that she has. So if she has in-house capabilities that she's already built, instead of wasting that up, how can that be integrated to the offering to make it stronger and better? and whether it is how payment is done today, or whether it is how credit scoring is done both in-house or third parties. And we are providing that, so the agility to allow for third-party applications to integrate to the core platform so that it can be able to scale quickly. The second thing that we are also doing that is critical is also, how do you make sure that you're bringing in standardization in the hand of at the service point? People keep calling it point of interaction. So this farmer today, and let me give you a practical example, the farmer who brings their produce to their cooperative, they come into a collection center, as they are called in a couple of matters. That collection center has a clerk or it has an agent. Now that clerk or an agent has a particular device in their hand, which today it can be a smart device, or it can be, in our traditional banking world, a POS device. What one revolution we are doing is creating a common terminal in the hand of that clerk, in the hand of that agent, in the hand of that collector, for example, so that with a standard terminal in their hand, which is a smart device, it can allow not just our own applications to sit on that device, allows the bank application to sit there, allow other third-party applications to sit there. That means we are able to aggregate services at that particular unit, create better economics to be able to serve. Because now, from a technology perspective, you have secured that transaction in the hand of that service provider. So we are able to then layer in services on the acceptance side of how we are rolling out. Now, the other question is around then, how do you embody more benefits to the farmer, and to the question around traceability.
Carbon footprint and traceability, yes.
Exactly. Now, what is important to note is that the groundwork that is being done as farmers are being brought into the platform, and as a credential is then being issued to those farmers, is also to track very closely what are they farming and what sort of inputs are they using in their farms, so that you can actually go back, track back to the last mile around where that produce actually came. Exactly. And for us, traceability is key. And given that you have standardized how a farmer is identified and issued them a unique credential, put it in a tool in which you can trace, then your chances of guessing and gambling, as Esther says, is out now, because we know who the farmer is, we know what farm they are in, we know what inputs they are using, we know which off-taker is buying from them, we know what facility they are participating in, we know what insurance they've taken. You can be able to have all that traced up. So yes, traceability is quite key. Now, turning to Uganda for a minute, one of the conversation that is becoming very relevant in Uganda, even with the regulator today, and Gerald can speak more to that, is that how are we driving utility at last mile through financial inclusion? So how are we doing more? So for example, one of the conversation that is there is that, are there better facilities that these farmers can participate in when it comes to how they are being credit scored, for example, when it comes to moving of where government is actually doing de-risking funds to roll out funds to the ag sector, but there's no uptake, a stronger uptake, because funds exist, but farmers are not consuming those funds. How can they better serve? And that is the issue, the conversation going through, because now you can trace the farmer, you can then be able to better provide facilities to that farmer, not even directly as government, but working through other parties, because we are now having a common way of reaching that farmer.
And there were a couple of questions about the partnership around governments and these entities, and I hope this obviously answered it. And feel free also for this panelists to answer some of the questions in the chat. Gerald, I want to come back to you and lean a little bit on what Daniel was saying about what's happening right now in Uganda. You are obviously on the ground, you're living in, and now almost like two components. I mean, Esther said that it was so easy for her to, sorry, Esther, I need to say it, so easy for her to roll it out because she already had so many farmers on her books, right? But you started from zero, right? You started the company, you started to onboard them. And I'm sure that people are curious in the audience to say, how did you do it? I mean, this is obviously a brave thing to do. How long did it take you and to get the business up and running? And fast forward to today about what Daniel was saying, how does this new regulation influence your business model?
Thank you very much, Andrea. Thank you very much, Daniel. So actually, if I maybe just quickly make a comment on what Daniel alluded to about some of the issues which have been raised by the regulator, and through our interactions with the regulator, one of the things that came to our attention is that in Uganda, there exists something called the Agricultural Credit Facility, which was set up by the government of Uganda in partnership with commercial banks. And essentially, it's about offering financing to projects that are engaged in the agricultural sector. And one of the pain points that was actually highlighted is the fact that these funds are actually moving very, very slowly. And that is one of the biggest issues that were pointed out, is the fact that the institutions, or the financial institutions, are finding difficulty in safely disbursing loans according to the models that they currently have. So this speaks to a lack of data, inability to properly appraise a given farmer or a given institution. And this is one of the key things that Community Pass actually is intended to solve. About our experience and how we were able to roll this out. One of the things which was mentioned by Daniel is also about partnerships. You cannot, the agricultural sector is too big for you to say, I'm going to go in and do everything from A to Z.
Right.
And so through this partnership, we really embraced the partnership with Mastercard in terms of using their Community Pass technology. And so that's partnership at the technology level. Then at the distribution level, in the area of getting these farmers on board, getting the produce organizations, getting the buyers, partnerships with associations are also very key. Farmer associations and farmer produce organizations. These are the people that actually have the data on the farmers, and they're the ones who understand what the farmers' pain points are and are able to actually give you the access to what they have so far and be able to embrace and have the platform deployed. And so partnerships have been a very, very key aspect of how our deployment has gone. I should also mention that on the other side is also development partners, such as the United States Africa Development Foundation, who provided a small bit of funding to help offset some of the costs associated with going into the field and getting down to the last farmer and the last village and getting insights about what is happening there, discussing with the produce organizations and enabling them come on board.
Yeah. So I found it really fascinating that you mentioned the point to actually integrate it and enabling the partners and the partnerships and then whole ecosystem. And again, and I put it on the chat, it's really fascinating that that whole enablement and financial inclusion is actually goes back into how much data do I have, how much do I know about the farmer, what decision I can make, right? I mean, if the time is flying, we only have 10 minutes to go. And I mean, I could talk to you for hours. So I just want to, if I look at Esther, Esther, you obviously said that fascinating story about cooperative bank, that it was started by farmers, right? So it was started by people because they needed it. Nobody was lending to them. So I would qualify it's like 1.0, right? Now you are digitizing, which is your 2.0. How does your 3.0 looks like? What is your plan now? What is, your next roadmap?
Yeah, so I think our next roadmap is just having the farmers not only connected to the local markets, but also having farmers connected to markets beyond Kenya, the global markets. It excites me. Our cotton farmers in Kenya have imagining that they can be connected to fashion, clothing companies in Australia and in the United States, and the cloth you're wearing, Andrea, you can trace it back
I
to
am
a farmer.
dressed appropriately today in African clothing. Thank you for noticing.
If you can trace that thread back to a farmer and you have their location, you have their name, and you can actually be able to tip the farmer for doing a good job at producing wonderful cotton for your clothes, or when you sip your cup of coffee, you have that traceability of the farmer who's put a lot of work to just making sure that they continue to serve the world with a good cup of coffee. And you can actually tip them. I mean, we tip all these people that serve us, but we never tip the farmer. And I think for me, it's that kind of interconnectedness, linking the farmer to the end consumer and having them seeing each other. That would be quite transformational.
I love the vision, and I know it already exists in our worlds, right? Where you have multiple. I mean, we had on Monday, we had a lady from Houdini Sportswear, and where you can trace immediately until the people who produce and the animals. And I was talking, I think 2 days ago, and on the first day about another tomorrow with a brand where if I scan the QR, I know who is the farmer who produced it, where the sheep grew up. And I love that you made the connection to the community pass, because it actually didn't occur to me that this is something which we could even extend the services to say, how can you, going back to the provenance Danielle talked about. I love your vision. I think it's, and I definitely would tip the farmers. This is from Tanzania, for example. I didn't have anything from Kenya and Uganda, but this is from Tanzania. I love the vision. It's brilliant. I think, Danielle, we need to take this offline and think about it, right? Gerald, you know, for you, I mean, on top of what Esther already was saying, right? What is your 3.0? You know, how does the 3.0 of your looks like?
Yes, thank you very much. And so the 3.0 of where we are going, and something which I know I've been discussing quite a bit with Huba, is the aspect of offline digital. So that, I think, is going to be quite a game changer in these markets of ours, because the offline aspect addresses the connectivity issues. And then the fact that it is offline and digital also addresses the speed aspects. There are certain transactions which are difficult to digitize simply because of the speed. I mean, when someone is maybe making the payment in cash, it's a very quick thing that is done. I mean, money changes hands from A to B. Now, if you could digitize that aspect and address the speed issue, I think that would be a game changer in a number of areas. And so that increased focus on the offline digital is going to be quite, I believe, a game changer for us. And we are really excited about getting to that point from a technology perspective in the community pass system.
You know, you were almost like reading my mind about the offline, because I want to just throw it to Danielle, you know, because I mean, you mentioned it, Danielle, in the introduction, right? That this community pass technology doesn't only work online. And we had a couple of power outages or connection outages as we spoke. Can you maybe elaborate for the audience, what does that offline solution look like, and maybe link it back to what Gerald was saying about the plan, how we will enable this?
Yeah, so I think the beauty of offline, and where our innovation seat as Mastercard from an offline perspective, is that we've then found a way which technically you can allow a transaction between the individual and the service provider, all that to be able to have an offline. So from a phone, for example, to a card. Let me take an example of a card. So in the hand of the farmer, when a farmer has their own card, community pass card, which is branded differently in every market, in that particular card, we've been able to put a capability on that card that stores their record. When they walk into a service provider who has a smart device, the device has also a capability, a community pass capability on that particular device that can read that card. So we can literally have a transaction between the farmer and the agent happening offline. They can be able to check who they are, pick up their produce, record it, and be able to make that transaction complete. The only thing that needs to happen that once a day or within a business rule, whether it is 2 days or 3 days, that particular collector or agent can then be able to sync their device to the server so that the global organization then can be able to see what transaction just took place. So that is the power of what offline can do. Let me give you another example in healthcare, for example, in what we are doing in healthcare. The beauty we've been able to do is that, remember, portability of record is quite critical, especially when there is emergencies. So you have patients who are going through critical care who have their records in one clinic. And if there is a war or something happens and they move to a different town, the other clinic in a different town cannot tell who they are completely. And they can actually literally lose their lives because no one can trace their records, medical records. The beauty of what Community Pass does through Wellness Pass is that because that individual just needs to go with their own card and that their record is on that card, when they move to the next facility in the next town, which has a common device that we all accept, Through a tap and go experience, the clinician in the next facility will be able to know the track record, the medical history of this particular individual, and therefore have continuity of care. So that is how really we are powering that offline transactions, allowing individuals and service providers to interact, because the data now sits at both the card in the individual's hand and the device. So that's what really we are doing from an offline perspective.
I really like it, and I like your examples because they are really powerful, right? Because we can't even imagine. We obviously have a phone and we think everything is in the phone, and we panic when the phone goes down, and everything is somehow interconnected. But in these examples, I mean, we don't only help the farmers to get the right seeds, get the right buyers, have access to loans, but also help them to store their medical records. Now, I have a last question, and I would maybe start with Daniel and then go to Esther and Gerald. I want to really finish on a high note, and I wanted to think about, whose life did you change? Do you have maybe one farmer which you remember, and what happened to them? Because I think this product is data driven, but it is so emotional and so full of empathy. So Danielle, we have 3 minutes, so you have 1 minute. Tell us your story. What moved you? How did we help somebody?
Powerful. My story goes to Tanzania. We have a farmer called Jackson. Jackson is, only did 7 years of education, actually 6 years of education. He dropped out of school after the 6th year of schooling. Was a farmer, came through a community pass about 2 years ago, where he was a farmer and a lead farmer, and therefore aggregating produce from their members. And he was so excited about the technology, he cannot speak English, but was able to actually, through looking at how we are, using the application, he was able to learn and became a champion for his team members. He graduated from being a farmer to a super agent, where now he was training other agents in the village.
Bravo.
And not only has that happened, he's now formed his own farmer producer organization cooperative today that has close to 3,000 farmers, and secured a facility of $250,000 from the bank because he was able to digitize the record of all his members. That's amazing. A powerful thing that happened in Tanzania for me.
Okay, Esther, I'm not sure how you will beat it, but let's try.
Yeah, so for me, Andrea, I think for me is actually the data clerks that we are using in the bank to go around the country and digitize the farmers' operations and help farmers clean data. They are young chaps. They didn't know how they would give back to the community, and just going out there and seeing farmers who have never used a computer, and starting to even train them how to use a password and how to put on a computer. I think for me that has been powerful, and seeing them actually having to think of a career in agriculture, particularly on technology. For me, that has been transformative.
Amazing, amazing. Okay, Gerald, tell us your story. Make us cry or laugh, something. I'm really challenging you here.
I don't know if I can talk what Daniel and Esther have given, but I think I'll speak about it from 2 aspects. And one, obviously, is the farmer. And in the interactions that we've been having with the farmers, the biggest thing that they have kept saying is the fact that it is, quote unquote, bringing farming to their fingertips and solving some of their age-old pain points of price. And when you listen to some of the stories about how you have a trader who comes and drives the price low simply because the farmer is not aware, and then goes and makes perhaps 10 times what they bought from the farmer, that solving that really does not just change the life of the farmer in terms of just the farming, but all around and all aspects of their lives, in terms of they are able now to get better healthcare. They're able to pay for education. They're essentially able to lift themselves up. And this, for us, has been a very critical thing. There is now also the other aspect of the agents who I mentioned have the app on a phone and go and serve these farmers, whether delivering services like credit, linking them to credit institutions or suppliers. And so this essentially, in a way, is creating jobs for these youth who are the most technologically savvy people. And so that aspect of creating jobs from the agents' perspective is also something that we are very happy with.
I have to say, this the time is over, but this was an incredible session. Esther, Danielle, and Gerald, thank you so much for joining me today. I feel personally so proud to be part of Mastercard, to hear your stories and how technology can enable such a great stories and really empower people. To the audience, thank you for joining us today. Everything is recorded. We will publish it on YouTube, so we'll be able to go and see it later. Once again, Esther, Danielle, and Gerald, thank you very much. You were absolutely amazing, and I hope I see you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
bye.